What is up, everybody? Welcome to the 21 Generals rules introduction kind of overview. I am your host, Delthius. How's it going, guys? I've got the gentleman on the line with me. What's up, man?
Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone.
So I played a little music in the background, the soundtrack. If you guys can let me know, hopefully it's not overpowering. I just want to add a little flavor. So before we get started tonight, I do want to do a couple advertisements. The Feast is back on track. We're doing Friday night episodes from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. EST, a little bit earlier than we used to. So please send me some replays for that, guys. Same old thing, ToothAndTailTV at gmail.com. On top of that, we've also got, of course, the 21 Generals tournament coming up. And this weekend, we are doing the leader nomination number 1 and number 2 tournaments on Saturday and Sunday. I'm going to be casting on Saturday, and I think AV Ultima is going to be joining me, so I'm going to have a good co-caster with me. And then on Sunday, Big Pimpintosh is going to be hosting there, and you can join both tournaments as well, so don't be shy. But without further ado, we are going to talk about 21 Generals, the tournament, what it's all about. The gentleman's always coming up with cool tournament ideas, and this one's awesome, but it's kind of complex, so I think it warranted a little bit of a video introduction. So I got your slides up, Mr. Gentleman. Take it away, man. Let's get this thing rolling.
Yeah, okay. So the 21 Generals is basically going to be separated in 3 parts. First, there is a president part where we'll nominate a leader for every faction. So you don't even need to be in the main season to apply for this stuff. You could join the president tourney just for fun if you want. You just need to go here on Discord, and you go to the pinned message, and you leave a thumbs up right below those messages if you want to participate.
Oh.
And it's going to automatically sign you up on a challenge bracket. But so when we have the leader for from every precedent tourney, we are going to make up the faction next week, and then we'll start the main season. So my internet is a bit slow, so let's resume the slideshow.
Yeah, so I've also got those links underneath the Tooth and Tail events section. Yeah, the video quality is a little bad. I think it's because we're doing a screen share in Discord, but I think it looks a little bit better for these slides. Probably not, since Gentleman is streaming to Dell. Actually, you know what? Should we get you to send me the PowerPoint real quick, and then I can, because the quality is a little.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I didn't realize the quality would be a little lackluster there. So.
All right.
Yeah, link me that. You guys can look at my lovely background in the meantime.
Let's see.
Thank you. I think it is a nice wallpaper. I could show this off while we're waiting. Look, y'all remember Best Sakya NA, of course. One of the other casters, event organizers. I ordered this mug from his channel like a million years ago, and it finally came in. It's the Sakya hopper. I forgot all about it. Like, I just randomly received a package in the mail, and it was this mug. I don't know. I remember I just got it to support him at one point. It was like $10 or something. All right, looks like I got the PowerPoint coming my way.
Should we have me on screen share, but the other way around, like I see your screen?
Oh yeah, that's probably smart. Or the stream shouldn't have a delay. You could probably just keep up on the stream. It doesn't matter, we can do it either way.
Yeah, I probably, but
yeah, we can do that. Give me...
Just... I often have some delay when I'm watching the stream.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Not going to be the case, but let's see.
Whoops.
Yeah, I think I have already a few seconds delay.
All right, how do I use PowerPoint, you guys? Where's the full screen button? Slideshow from beginning. Oh, it's trying to... I see what it's trying to do. It's trying to make the other monitor. There we go. Okay, geez. So, turn on screen share for you. This is off to a good start. Give us 1 second, guys. We almost got this figured out. Change windows.
Oh, okay. I see it. Yeah.
Okay, are you good now?
Yeah.
F5.
Yeah.
I thought it was F5. I remembered it was F5, but it freaked me out because the screens were wrong. But okay. I think we're good now. Okay. So as a gentleman, I think where we were at, you were talking about the faction leaders. So basically, James won the last season. He's going to be one of the 3 faction leaders, and then we're hosting a tournament on Saturday and Sunday to determine who the other faction leaders are.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the approximative schedule for the 3 different stage. The main season is going to be the second stage, where there is 3 factions battling against each other in a pocket world, like no, not like pocket world, like a team league match, team league, yeah, like a team league with different match, and well, that's what most of the rules are about.
Yeah, a lot of it, we'll probably get to it later, was just talking about the order of how the teams are going to face off against each other, right? Because the majority of it is going to be weekly best of 3s that are going to be determined by what you're saying is like a team league style ordering.
Yeah.
Oops.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the Google Doc right there.
Yeah, pressing all the wrong buttons. All right. And then...
So yeah, the main point is that stage 1 is entirely optional, but stage 2 is where the main season is going to be played, and if you win in the main season, you get to qualify for the finals in late February.
So one question I had about the finals, if I understand it right, it's the winning faction that's going to go to the finals, plus James, right?
Yes, plus James and plus a bunch of mercenaries.
Oh.
It's in the next slides.
Okay, yeah, that was my question, was if the mercenaries could get there. Okay, so is this the right slide?
It's on the next slide, but right with this slide, I think it's important to say that there can only be 18 players in total for the faction. So even though we are going to set up the exact faction composition next week, I'd like to know beforehand if you want to be a faction player or a mercenary, because there is that limit for the faction total number. So if we reach 18 players already, like tomorrow, and we can't accept any more sign-up for the faction. But the mercenaries, there can be any number of them, so it's okay if you want to join even in the middle of this season. There is no limit. It's just for if you want to play for the faction, I need to know quite soon.
Yeah, mercenaries can sign up late too, right?
Yeah. But if you want to sign for any faction, I need to know soon.
Yeah. How are we doing on faction signups at this point?
So I have 10 or 11 people who are definitely going to be in a faction, and then I have about 8 people who are not, who might be in a faction but are waiting to see the explanation of the rules to decide. So
yeah, it's a little less responsibility being a mercenary. Well, I don't know, like a mercenary, I guess we'll get to that later, but a mercenary versus like a regular faction member that's not a leader or a minstrel, you know?
Yes. Mercenary is definitely a most passive option. Like you don't really have to interact a lot with the rules, the Discord, the board game aspect of the tournament.
Yeah.
The people just hire you and tell you, hey, you need to play this week against this player, and you do that, just that.
So if you're not looking for like if you're looking for less of a commitment, being a mercenary might be better for you. You can kind of show up and somebody points and says, "Hey, best of 3 that guy," and you're like, "Roger that," you know?
Yeah. But mercenaries are have different winning condition to qualify for the finals. We're going to see that in the next slide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So at the end of stage 2, there is one faction who is going to win, and the other 2 factions will be eliminated. So the 6 players from the winning faction are going to be automatically qualified and randomly seated in the final bracket, with the faction leader being granted a bye. He starts in the semifinals. So if you are a faction player, your only way to get in the finals is to have your faction win. But if you are a mercenary, the way you are going to be in the final is by getting hired more than the other mercenaries. We are going to talk about that later. But basically, if you qualify for the playoff as a mercenaries, you'll have to fight some match before you reach the quarterfinals. So James is a special case because being the defending champion, even if his faction lose, he will have the possibility to fight in the lower bracket, like in the playoff, to come back as if he were mercenaries rather than an eliminated player.
So that's the advantage that James gets for winning last season is he's gonna be at least in this at least in the finals, like he's gonna be in the final tournament, in this worst position with the mercenaries. So basically, it looks like the faction, if I'm understanding this right, we've got the faction leader who's going to get seeded a little bit better than the rest of his team because, he's got to do so much work through the season, he or she. And then we've got 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are there 6 players per team?
Yeah, exactly.
So
6 per faction.
It looks like we're missing one of the faction members, or am I crazy?
No. The faction leader is a faction member.
Yeah.
There is a 6 person per faction, including the leader.
Yeah. So the random seed number 1.
Random seed number 1 is one of the non-leader.
Oh, okay, okay. That's where I was confused. So everything in red is basically the winning faction. Yeah, that makes sense because up here it's nice and color coded. And then down here, we've got the 3 best mercenaries. We haven't determined yet, or we haven't explained yet how the mercenaries are going to get to the finals, but this is where they will be once they're there.
And this is a part that could be adjusted. If there is not enough mercenaries, it might be top 2 or top 1 mercenaries, not just top 3. Basically, we want to have if you're a mercenary, we want you to have a 30% chance of reaching the finals.
Yeah.
So it's not more advantageous to be a mercenary rather than a faction.
That makes sense. Okay. Hey, Master Stealth, the random seed number 1 confused me. Okay, he's giving me crap for getting confused. All right, so I think I get this, and we also have a nice prize pool going on here. Donated from several people. A lot of it's from you. A lot of it's from Andy, the developer of Tooth and Tail. I think a couple other people chipped in as well.
Yeah, there is also James who is giving away his winnings from last season into the prize pool.
That's awesome.
And Arelu too, who was third place, so he had €5 and he's giving them to the prize pool.
Very cool.
So it's Andy, James, Arelu, and myself.
Okay. That's really awesome. I think we're ready for the next slide. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right.
There's a lot of slides.
Okay, this is where things get fun.
Yeah. So every week there is going to be a number of match played between the faction. So basically 10 match and 1 optional match played by faction and against eventually possibly against a defending mercenary. So I'm going to explain that at the end of this slideshow because it's a bit of a detail. But basically, there is going to be each faction is going to face another faction in 3 different matches that are worth different amount of victory points. And victory points is what is going to bring your faction closer to the ultimate victory of that you are going to be able to reach at the end of the fifth week most likely. And so all match are best of 3, and each victory point you win, you take it away from the faction you beat.
So it
If
looks
that makes
like
sense.
player position 1 and 4 are worth 1, 2 and 5 are worth 2, and 3 and 6 are worth 3. Is that how it works?
Yeah, well, basically, there is one match worth 1 victory point, a second match
Okay.
is going to be worth 2 victory points, and the third match is going to be worth 3. And there is 3 set of 3 match like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is the free fall, where all 3 factions fight against each other, and the losing faction give 2 victory points each to the winning faction, who is going to gain 4 victory points as a result.
Yeah, so basically each week the faction leader will say, hey, these are my heavy hitters. These are the guys that are going to be worth 3 points each, and then 2, and then 1. Thanks, Adam, in the chat for telling me about the soundtrack. I might be able to turn it down even more, or I can just mute it if it's getting in the way. I can probably do that. Sorry. Okay. Okay, yes, and now does that change, can that change weekly? Or is that...
Yeah, it
you know what I mean?
Weekly. Yeah.
So if I'm my faction leader, I can determine week by week who on my team is worth what points.
Yeah, it's covered in later slide, the part where how do we decide who is going to play in what match. The most important aspect is that one player can only play in one match for the week.
Okay, yeah. So basically, everybody on the faction is going to play in one match every single week.
Yeah, basically.
What about the free for all? Can anybody play that?
Yeah, they can play that if they are not playing in another match. It's a best of 3, so in a free for all, it means that if there is a third match, if no one won twice in the free for all with the 2 first games, the third game is going to be played in a 1v1 between the 2 winners of the free for all. So yeah.
Okay.
And the optional match is something that we can see on the next slide. There is going to be a number of gray tile, the neutral tile, and 3 of them can be conquered by winning in that optional match. So those territory, they are each worth 5 victory points, and when you win victory points against a faction, you progress in a bar.
Yeah.
You see there is 3 bars, and when you reach the end of the bar, it resets at 5, and you flip a tile of the territory of the opposing faction. And the aim is to have more territory than the other faction, and that's how you decide the winner. That's covered in the couple of next slides.
So we're keeping track of which factions, which regions belong to which factions, kind of utilizing this pocket world map that Master Stealth has put together. And essentially, if I'm on the blue faction and I start beating down on the red team, or the red team is losing faction points in the best of 3s, then I'm going to start expanding my territory and taking over some of those red ones.
Yeah. And if you win against the green faction, you are going to take green territory, even if it's not connected, even if you don't share a border.
Okay.
You are going to flip the tile to your color.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's awesome. Is Master Stealth actually, did he code you some stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's doing some...
I wasn't sure if he was going to be like, just Photoshop it, man. No, that's awesome. Cool. Are we ready for the next slide?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's roll.
So here we're going to talk about this, the advantage bar, which kind of lets you know in a quick graphic kind of where the standings are for the factions. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's what we saw on the left side of the map. It's just basically if you win victory points, you start filling the bar. Once you reach the end of the bar, it's one territory flip. So
Oh, okay.
it's just to keep count of where the faction stands against each other with the victory points.
So in this example, it doesn't matter for red if if green is losing victory points. Let's say blue is beating down on green, right? Red still has to get 5 victory points advantage over green to claim a territory.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's it's not just
reset between. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, reset between every turn.
It's not reset.
Oh, it doesn't reset between the turns.
Yeah, so like if you have your progress bar at +3, it's like you have done 60% of the work to flip a territory against that specific faction.
Yeah. But what's cool here is like if red got up 4 victory points and then green won a couple victory points off them, it goes back to the middle. It's not like red every 5 victory points you flip, It's you have to get 5 victory points advantage over the other faction to flip a territory.
Yeah.
Cool. I get it. I think if I get it, that means most other people should get it, right? Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's going to last 5 weeks, but if one faction starts taking a big lead, it can end before that. So like a 10 tiles lead by the end of week 3 would be really extreme, but it would mean that the season would end at the end of week 3 because there is one faction with just too much ahead of the other. So
hopefully that won't happen though, because I think we'll talk about it in a bit. But we're gonna try to balance the factions at least to the best of our abilities, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And what should be noted is that if you have like your progress bar almost filled against a faction, like you have a +4 victory point advantage against that faction, but you and that other faction have the same amount of territory, it's the amount of territory that matter, and there is going to be a tie. If you are tied in territory, then you are tied period.
Okay, so if you the amount of victory points doesn't matter. So if I've got 5 tiles on the board and you've got 5 tiles on the board, it doesn't matter that I've got an extra 3 victory points.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's do the next slide.
Alrighty.
So that's at the start of each week, we the faction leader are going to assign some of their faction members. But before they assign their faction members, they have no idea of who is going to be playing for the other faction in which match. They only know one thing, is that there is one mercenary that is going to play as the defender for the neutral conquest, and if that mercenary wins, then no faction will get an extra neutral territory that week. Go to the next slide. So when every faction leader has assigned their member, we are going to see where every faction member is going to play for the week.
And then the holes here would be where the mercenaries are?
Yeah. As you can see, there is not enough room for... there is not enough faction member to play in every match. So once the first assignment phase is done, there is going to be a second assignment phase, which is where the mercenaries comes in. And in the next slide, you can see that mercenaries are getting assigned simultaneously, but after the faction member to the remaining slots. And one specificality that I'd like to talk about right now, because it wasn't in the first iteration of the rules, is that if you leave a slot vacant, like there is no faction member and you didn't manage to hire a mercenary for that specific slot, then you are going to take a penalty that is always going to be minus 4 victory points and plus 4 victory points for the faction that got an empty slot they were meant to play against.
So I have a question here. It looks like every week we're having 7 matches, including the free-for-all, but only 6 players. So that means that you need to hire at least one mercenary, right?
Yes, and you will also need to hire a second one if you want to participate in the optional match.
Oh, to try to grab a neutral tile.
Yeah, exactly.
And does the winner of the neutral match, do they just straight up get a neutral tile?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so
absolutely.
So really, ideally, you're gonna want your full roster plus 2 mercs every week.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that means we want at least. So we really need at least 24 players, guys. So if you've been slacking on signing up, man, definitely sign up. The mercenary role is a little bit less lackluster, but we need to fill out these faction roles before anything else, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Mercenary can come in later. But
yeah, that's another thing that's cool too. If you're on the fence about signing up, mercenaries can kind of come and go, right? You know, play for a week or two.
Technically, you can get away with having 8 player playing for your faction, mercenary included.
Yeah.
Like you could ignore the neutral conquest, but you could also set up like an agreement with another faction where both faction leave an empty slot. So.
Oh, true.
Yeah, but of course, if one faction betrays the other,
yeah, you could say, "All right, yeah, man, we'll leave an empty slot," and then they put somebody there and get the auto win.
Yeah. The next slide is about the details of the difference of what happens if there is no match. What happens if there is no match? If there is no match because there was no one sent here, then it's going to be 4 victory points. But if none of the 2 factions sent anyone in that match, then nothing happens. There is no penalty for any of the factions. And it should be noted that if you send someone, whether it's a merc or a faction member, to a match, but then for another reason that match cannot happen, like he needs to forfeit or he cannot play because he has a busy schedule, then it comes as a 2-0 loss and not as a 4 victory points penalty.
And are these are the weekly matches? Is it kind of based on player convenience? Are we trying to set up a set time for the matches to be streamed live, or probably a mix of both?
It's going to be a bit of both, mostly based on player convenience.
Yeah.
But if we can have some being played live, it would be nice too.
Yeah, that'd be a nice little icing on the cake, but that's one thing too. If you're worried about getting involved for flexibility, you'll basically get assigned at the start of the week to play against an opponent, and as long as you get that done in the next few days or something, then you're probably good.
Yeah. I think you'll have like 4 or 5 days at least to schedule a match. So.
Sweet. Okay, so this makes sense to me.
Okay. Let's go to the next slide.
All right, so now we're gonna talk. So that was kind of the overview. Now we're gonna get into the weeds here, and we're gonna start off with the factions.
Yeah, that's so. As you said earlier, we are going to try really hard to have balanced faction. We are going to check camel, leader points, and overall judgments. Personal judgments to try to make really a faction of similar strength for the player. So we might ask player if they want to be with a specific color or a specific leader, but eventually we are going to reassign player ourselves to make balanced team.
Yep, that makes sense. So basically, you might be able to come in and say, hey, I want to play on a faction with one of my friends or this faction specifically. And maybe we'll be able to do that, or maybe we'll say, we're not going to have, this guy and James and Kalaru all on the same team. And
Exactly.
So, okay, I think that makes sense. And then we have the James, who's going to be one of the faction leaders, and then we're determining the other 2 faction leaders this weekend. With the 2 faction leader tournaments, one on both Saturday and on Sunday. We're going to be doing a lot of that live, and I'm just trying to stream more in general, so I'll probably eventually get to the replays on that tournament, just casting, on TnTTV at another time. So if you are playing in those 2 tournaments this weekend, please do save those replays, because I will most likely stream them at one point, either me or Tosh will, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think Tosh will do. He will do for sure a Sunday, but maybe we'll do some game in the first round Saturday.
Oh yeah, like a dual stream.
Yeah, maybe.
Cool. All right, I think we get that.
So yeah, the leaders are permanently assigned, and there is going to be spies in each faction, and the spies are going to be permanently assigned too. So if you are a spy at the start of the season, you are a spy until the end of the 21 generals. So yeah.
And you were talking about too in the Google Doc, you're going to ask the players on the factions like how badly they want to be a spy.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Like I'm going to say the player on a scale from 1 to 5, how badly do you want to be a spy, and then it's going to be taken into account in some kind of random draw. But even if you say I don't want to be a spy, there is a small chance that you are going to be selected as a spy anyway, so that we can maintain the feeling that everyone could be a spy. So spy, they might eventually create some unbalance between the faction. Like if this guy become a spy for another faction, then it's going to be good for the other faction. So we are going to try to check that, so it's not too unbalanced, but it could become a bit imbalanced as a result, because we don't want the spies to be too predictable because of people calculating who are the remaining spy based on balance and strength of the first spy they uncovered, stuff like that.
So I don't want to throw a wrench at you live on stream, but maybe you have thought of this already. But let's say I'm on the green team, right? And what's going to stop me from turning to my buddies and being like, well, I'm not a spy, I'm not a spy, I'm not a spy. And then we kind of know, all right, it must be those guys that are spies. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Well, everyone can lie, obviously.
Yeah.
Spy should lie.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, duh.
I'm going to send everyone you are not a spy message on Discord.
Yeah.
So for the non-spy, is going to be a real message that they know they are not a spy. But for the spy, it's going to be like a decoy message. I'm going to say, just so that you can Photoshop it and show it to your faction leader.
Nice. Look, I'm not a spy either.
Yeah,
that's funny.
And then I'll send them the instruction. I'm going to tell them which faction is the real faction, and there is only their only contact will be with their true leader. Like if I'm a red spy planted in the green team, then I'm only the red leader know that I am a spy.
Yeah. Okay, I think we. Is that it on spies? Want to keep trucking?
No, just in general, the spies should try to leak information about the matchup, and they could throw games on purpose when it's advantageous for their real faction. So yeah.
What's the... Okay, so what happens when the cat's out of the bag and everybody knows 100% that I'm the spy on the team?
Yeah, good question. Well, when that happens, the spy, they cannot kick it out one-sidedly out of the team, but they can keep him on the bench. Like they don't send him to play match, and they just don't share useful intel with him.
Yeah, so you would probably try to hire a merc to replace their spot, like in the weekly matches.
Exactly.
Okay. So if you're being a spy, you're kind of troll. I don't even want to say actually because a couple of people just came to mind who would make good spies, but I don't want to say anything. But if you're a spy, then you're kind of you may not play every single week and stuff, but you're gonna be able to kind of get more deep in the board game aspect of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're definitely going to be playing like the first couple weeks, I'd imagine, unless you're just a horrible spy and they find you out immediately. But that's cool. I like it. It's a good idea.
So let's see the next slide.
So I got a question from the chat. If I'm a general of green, I cannot know about the green spies in blue and red. No, you do. So if you're a general of green, so let's use that as an example. You don't know that this blue and red spy are actually spies. So you think everybody, spies exist, but you don't know who's the spies on your team. However, you are in contact with your two spies on the other teams, right?
If you are the leader,
if you're the faction leader, yeah, he was asking if you're the faction leader. So yeah, if you're the faction leader, you know who your other spies are. You can
if you are the
scheme
faction leader,
with them and all that, right?
Yeah, but you shouldn't tell your fellow teammates that that other player in the red team is your spy, because then you could have one spy report to the other team and tell them,
General is not leader, says Peeboo.
Yeah, sorry.
Is a general and a faction leader two different things?
Yeah,
okay.
Faction leader are the leaders, and general are the vanilla faction member, because there are other roles that we are going to see in the next slide.
Okay. Yeah, I knew about the minstrel. Leaders that designate one marshal and one minister for the week. So is the marshal the general?
No, the general are the three other faction members who are neither a marshal or a minister or a leader. So spy is not a role. Spy is permanent. Leader is permanent. But marshal and minister, they are weekly roles. When the leader designates one marshal and one minister among the generals, and then they remain a marshal or minister until the end of the week. And they have they share some of the power of the leader. So like the marshal can assign some players, and the minister can hire some mercenaries. But we're going to see that in the next part.
Okay, so to correctly answer Adam Play's question, he asked, so if I'm a general of green, I cannot know about the green spies in blue and red. I would say that's correct, right? Like the regular players, which are the generals, don't know who the other spies is, but the faction leader does.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're a loyal general, you only know that spy, and you can only rely on your wits. You can also know that the faction leader is not. The faction leader can obviously never be a spy.
All right, so next slide here. Spies can be exchanged at the end of a week if two leaders agree to it. So if both, I guess the idea here is if, hey, the jig's up, I know who my spy is, you know who your spy is, let's just go ahead and swap them out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Completely, yes.
Okay, I think that makes sense. We can move on to the next slide.
Yeah.
Okay. Exchange spies cannot be named marshal or minister afterwards. So you're a little bit disgraced coming back as a spy who's been busted or exchanged, I guess.
Yeah. It's to avoid making things too easy, because once your spy return, you know for sure that he's a loyal member of the faction. So we want to keep the remaining spy with a chance to be named minister or marshal, which is going to be much harder if the exchange spy just gets assigned as a minister or a marshal every week, because he's a trustworthy, confirmed, loyal member of the faction.
That makes sense. Got a question. Faction leader is the only player for sure that is not a spy, then? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we're going to talk about battle orders now.
Yeah.
And at the start of a week, the leader must lend either one or two players to his newly reappointed marshal. Okay, so the marshal kind of tries to help the faction leader determine who we're gonna put as like our gold, silver, and bronze players, basically our big hitter, mid range, and less risky one.
Yeah, exactly. So it must be either 1 or 2, not 0, not 3.
Now I have a question here. So if I'm on the blue team and I assign Premium Bow to be my 3 victory point player, right? And then the green team assigns Master Stealth to be their 2 victory point player. Those two can't fight each other. It's got to be the 3 and the 3s, the 2s and 2s, and 1s and 1s.
Exactly.
So you can't have like a 1 and a 3 matchup or anything like that. Okay.
Oh, and 1 and a 3. So sorry.
So if I assign, I guess to make it easier, explaining it like this, like basically I'm gonna assign like gold, silver, or bronze to my generals, right? For how many points they're worth.
Yes, but it's gold, silver, and bronze, but against a specific faction, and then there is a second set of match against the other faction, and there is going to be 3 general to be assigned against that faction too.
Right. But the players, like if I assign a player to be worth 3 points, then they can only go up against other enemy faction players that are also worth 3 points, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yep, I understand it.
So, let's go to the next slide.
Every match is best of 3, right? That is correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely every match in the main season.
And then can we go over the free-for-all one more time? The free-for-all is best of 3, right?
Yeah. It's best of 3. So the first 2 games are free-for-all. If one same player wins both games, then he wins the series. But if 2 different players win the free-for-all, the first two games, then they play a third round between themselves, but it's a 1v1.
Yep, that makes sense. And then when we say the leader must lend either 1 or 2 players to his newly appointed marshal, is when we say that, we're saying the marshal gets to determine what those players are, if they're 1, 2, or 3 victory point players for the week?
It's going to make sense in the next slide.
Okay, yeah.
So in the next slide, it's an example where the leader lend 1 player, 1 general to the marshal. So that general is going to be the subordinate of the marshal for the week. Let's see the next slide. And then that marshal and his general are going to be assigned to one of the 2 series against either green or red.
Yep.
So in that example, they're going against green.
Yeah.
Next slide. So yeah, once it's decided, the marshal and the general are going the marshal is going to assign himself and his fellow general to the series he has been assigned, and only the series, and then the leader is going to assign everyone else to the other match, but not in the marshal series, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So one important point is that the leader can choose to leave people on the bench, that not everyone in the faction may play if the leader decides to, but if it's a general that has been lent to the marshal, then they have to play. So the marshal cannot not play, and the general under the marshals cannot be left on the bench. And the leader himself cannot.
So that's the point of the marshal selecting 1 general, right?
Yeah.
So basically, I'm gonna assign I'm gonna pick my marshal, and then the marshal can say, "Hey, I'm gonna select a general," which guarantees that player is not gonna be benched by the faction leader later.
Oh, it's the general. The faction leader is going to decide who goes with the marshal.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see.
Yeah. So basically, it's kind of a spy thing, because if the marshal is a spy, it know for sure a part of the battle order, because he's going to have to enter the battle order for 3 matches himself. So he's going to be able to leak that to the opposing faction if the marshal were to be a green spy, for example, then you would say to green, hey, I'm going to play in a match 3. Or maybe even he could mess up with the match order leader suggested, and make something completely absurd to ensure green will win more points, but then he would be revealed as a spy, basically.
Okay, so the marshal is gonna the faction leader says you're gonna fight green or red here, with your the marshal plus the general that the faction leader also selected.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the leader is going to assign himself and everybody else into the other slots.
Yeah, but he cannot assign himself to the neutral slot.
The leader cannot be in the neutral slot. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and it looks like neither Marshal nor Minstrel can be in the neutral slot either?
Yeah, Marshal cannot fight in the free-for-all either, because he's always going to be in charge of a series of 3 matches.
Oh, yeah, it makes sense the Marshal can never be in the free-for-all. Yeah. Okay. And then the leader can bench anybody who wants. Yep, and we talked about that before, where if I'm going to bench a player, then I might be picking up a Merc, or I might just be leaving a slot empty, but there's definitely victory point costs associated with that. Okay. Moving on?
Yeah, let's move on.
When every marshal and leader has made up their mind, the battle order is revealed. Okay. And then some slots are still empty. It's time to hire mercs to fill the gaps. Oh, so we actually reveal to the other faction leaders.
Yeah, it's revealed at the same time.
Before we choose mercs, though.
Before we choose mercs, so mercs, they can be chosen with more accuracy because they already know most of the lore.
Okay. And then at this point, we start the bidding process to try to hire mercs.
Yeah, it's going to be the next part with the auction system. So mercs cannot be sent to the neutral conquest either.
Yep. And there's only going to be a handful of neutral conquests, right? Or is there enough neutral conquests to be one per week with the neutral territories?
There is a limit, a maximum limit of 3 territories that can be conquered through neutral conquest.
Yep.
But if the neutral mercenary that is going to defend the territory for this week wins, then no faction gets the territory. So if the mercenary win like twice, then the neutral conquest thing is going to last for 5 weeks.
All right, let's move on to auctions.
Yeah.
So we're going to gain meat, and we're going to use that meat to hire mercs.
Yeah. And meat has no other use for faction. Like, if you have 15 meats at the end of the season and you are a faction leader, then just wasted, basically.
Does the meat carry over from week to week?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
But for mercenary, meat is very important. What decide who is going to play in the playoff. Mercenary really needs to have more meats than their other fellow mercenaries.
Okay.
So the competition between mercenaries is about who receives the most meat during the course of this season.
That makes sense. And then this is where, kind of like earlier on, the marshal can gain some of the faction leader responsibilities. Here, there's a similar concept, except with the minister, who's going to help make the bids to hire the mercs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we're going to get some meat coming in at the start of every week. And our meat income is going to be 30 minus the number of territories we own. So the more ahead we start getting, the harder it is going to be for us to, spread out meat to some mercenaries, which could give a little bit of a comeback mechanic to like the person in last place, because I might have an extra few chunks of meat here to hire a powerful merc over the front runner.
Yeah, exactly. It's an anti-snowball mechanic, and from a thematical perspective, it represents the fact that the larger your territory, the bigger your upkeep becomes.
Yeah. And if you're a mercenary, I mean, the name of the game is getting meat. So if you're a
Yeah.
faction leader, I'm a faction leader, and you say, hey, I'll give you 15 meat, and I say, I'll give you 16, like that merc's going to come with me for the 16.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
That's
even
the
like one
option.
or two difference could matter, you know?
Yeah. But it's all going to be done in a very automatic way and very like for the mercenary themselves, they have not a lot to do. It's going to be very passive, the auction for the mercenary. They're going to be notified at the end of who won the auction for them and how many meat they got. Well, it's going to be explained in the next slide.
So we got a question from the chat. Is there any reason to leave a slot empty? We were talking about that a little bit earlier.
Yes, there is a reason. If if that slot is against another faction and that other faction is going to leave its slot empty too, then both factions can like save some manpower for other match without incurring a penalty. But of course, it means you are trusting the other faction to not hire a mercenary at the last moment to take up the free victory points.
Yeah, not to mention, you know, that could come into play more than you think it might, because you can essentially double, you know, if you take a week off from hiring mercs or something like that, you know, you could double the amount of meat you have for next week to really get that like top tier mercenary for a crucial match.
Yeah, I think diplomacy is going to be a key part of the season, and a big reason why I think it's very unlikely that there is going to be an early end week 3, because if a faction starts pulling ahead, then the other two factions can start to cooperate and save their meals and stuff, and the best player against that particular leading faction. So I think we are going to see a 5 weeks season.
Okay.
So yeah, just a notice that in this particular example, the minister is also a spy, so he could really embezzle the money for his real faction.
Yeah. Could mess up a bid to kind of sabotage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not just a bit, he could like hire a mercenary for green actually.
Oh, really? Like using
Yeah.
blue's meat?
To hire a mercenary to fight for a slot that is not owned
But
by
then
blue but by
you're
green.
just totally revealed as a spy.
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Because well, it's going to be explained in the next slide. But yeah. Oh, and also the mercenary start with 10 meats, and that is because well, you remember that there is a mercenary that defends tile with the optional match, the neutral conquest match.
Yes.
Yes, if that mercenary wins, he's going to get a 20 meat award. So it's an advantage, and the right to fight for the neutral tile is going to be decided by a simplified public auction that I'm not going to explain right now, because it's not the most important thing, especially if you're a faction player. But basically, every mercenary at the start of a week can try to spend his own meat to try to become the tile defender for the week.
Okay. No meat for the other faction members. 10 meats.
Yeah, no meat ever. If you're not a minister, you don't have meat. You don't own meat. You don't choose meat.
Yep.
So you don't have to worry about the auction if you're not a minister or a leader.
Okay.
So yeah, the bids are secret. So and simultaneous, like well, everyone make bids, and the final result is going to be revealed at the end, but you are not going to know who has bid on whom.
So is like Kalaru or Master Stealth kind of coding up a little bot for this, or how are you?
No, it's going to be done manually by me or Premium. And yeah, well, basically there is only 6 bidders, so it shouldn't be too hard to handle.
Oh yeah, I guess people could just send you PMs or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so I think I get this. So let's say you're running the auction. So then the green and let's say I don't know, this guy's a merc. So the green player would say I want to spend 12 meat on this guy. And what if the red player also says, I want to spend 14 meat on this guy? They would both like message you that.
Yeah, they would both message me that, sorry. And at the end of the bid, this guy would be hired by the highest bid, and the losing bids for this guy would be refunded.
Okay.
Like, let's just move on to the next slide.
So this is what you're talking about, where you're saying if you're a minstrel and you're a spy, then you're not necessarily going to get revealed because these auctions are not open to everybody. It's within DMs, very very private, sneaky stuff there. Oh yeah, here we go.
But the leader could still deduce that that particular mercenary has not been hired as promised, and that the minister does not have the. Well, he could spot on some discrepancy to figure out that the minister has not been acting like he should have. So yeah, so every bidder can make as many bids as they want, but a bid must respect certain conditions. It must be at least 5 meets, so it's to avoid a petty 1 meet bid for a lot of mercenaries, to make things a bit simpler for us too. Then it must designate mercenaries you are going to want to hire, but it also needs to designate a battle slot and not a faction. Like, you don't say, hey, I'm hiring you for my faction, and then we'll decide later where you go. You indicate where that mercenary would fight, in which match, in which match he would fight if he were to be playing for you. You indicate that in your bid. Your bid would be 10 meets on this guy for match number 3 against red.
But don't they know what faction you represent? Like, if I said 10 meet on this guy for match number 3, wouldn't you know, hey, that's Delthius, he's part of the blue team, or something?
Oh, but he would not notify the mercenary directly. Tournament organizer, and then the tournament organizer only notifies the mercenary of the winning bids.
Right.
I would then say, hey, this guy, you need to play in match number 3 against that guy, that other guy.
That guy, this guy versus that guy.
Yeah. And you got 10 meets.
Yep.
So then this guy is going to assume that, of course, since he's playing.
There's no bid war either, right? Like, it's just submit.
No.
Submit once. Okay.
Yeah, submit once.
Oh, so there's a little bit of a poker aspect here. You might I might say 30 meat for this guy, and nobody else even bid on him, so I could have said 5 meat and got away with it.
Totally, yes.
Oh, that's fun. Okay. I like that. All right, I think we're ready for the next slide here. Failed bids are returned. We talked about that. Unspent meat is carried over. We talked about that as well. Tiebreak for a mercenary, the earliest bid wins. Okay, so the first guy to say, I want this guy, gets them if we both say. And 2 plus mercs.
If they both say like 10 meat for this guy, and 10 meats happens to be the highest bid, but there is 2 bids with 10 meats, then it's the earliest bid, like in real life. That gets the winning.
Yep, I think that's cool. So 2 mercs for the same. Am I good? Yeah, it should be good. Okay.
Yeah.
Two merc for the same battle slot. Faction leader chooses. So how would that happen? I guess the faction leader and the minstrel both selecting the same person.
Yeah. So for example, we could have that one match. We don't want to leave it vacant. So just to be sure, we are going to send 2 mercenaries.
Yeah.
2 mercenaries for it.
Yep.
But then you have also a red player who has not read this rule, and he's going to say, hey, I'm going to hire the weakest mercenary and send him to fight for this match for green, so that we have a easy victory. But of course, this cannot work like that, because the green leader is the green faction leader is going to select the best available marks according to him, so that you can't abuse the send a weak mercenary for enemy faction mechanic.
That makes sense. And there's no limit on how many different mercenaries I can bid on if I've got the meat,
only
right?
limit. Yeah.
So what if I actually only need 3 mercenaries, right? And I end up winning 5. Do I still have to pay the other 2 that don't do anything?
Yeah, you have to.
I gotta pay him to sit on the bench.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Because I'm thinking there might be situations where you want to do that, right? Because it's like, oh, I'm going to bid on this person, but what if I don't get them? You know, so I'm going to go ahead and overbid a little bit. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Auction is over. Mercs are sent to the battle slots they were paid for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's that situation I just talked about in the top right. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It isn't. That's just saying nobody hired me. Merc who loses his match refunds 50% of his payment to those who hired him. Okay.
Yeah.
And then some mercs may be left jobless for the next week. Or, as we were just saying, you might be hired and then sit on the bench because there's no actual slot for you.
Yeah, but if you're hired, you still keep 100% of.
Yeah, in that situation, you would keep your money. But the thing is, I can't. So let's say I'm gonna need 3 mercenary slots for the week.
Yeah.
I can't pick and choose because I have to say, hey, I want to hire Premium Bow for slot number 4, and I also want to hire Massive Stealth for slot number 4, right? So if I end up getting both of them, I can't say, well, actually, I'm going to put Premium Bow in slot number 8.
Yeah, absolutely. You cannot change the slot.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So you might end up like almost wanting to bid on a couple mercenaries for each slot you have to make sure you get it.
Yeah.
Or overbid. You know, maybe instead of bidding on 2 mercs for 1 slot, I'm going to throw down 30 food, and I know nobody else is going to, so I'm going to for sure get them. All right. Unspent and refunded meat are carried over. Yeah, we touched on that. And leader changes their minister every week. They also change the marshal as well, right? But they don't have to because it says can.
It's can.
Yeah.
Leaders don't have to change, but they can change.
Okay.
And when they change the minister also gain the meat that was owned by the previous minister.
Yeah. It's not like the minister himself owns the meat. It's like the meat is part of the faction. Yeah. So you don't get to walk away with the meat as the minister.
Yeah. It's part of the minister position. And then there is a 4th and last big part of the rules, and there's the type advantage and stuff like that.
All right, so here's our Pokemon Fire, Grass, and Water here. I like the attack, defense, or eco for the rock, paper, scissors. It's a very big RTS build order kind of trinity in a sense, where aggressive builds beat economic builds will beat defensive builds, and defensive builds will beat aggressive builds. So we're kind of symbolizing that here with so basically when you start, everybody include so hang on, I think I know this one. So everyone but the faction leader decides at the beginning if I'm going to be attack, defense, or eco, including mercenaries, right?
Let's go to the next slide that's going to answer.
Okay.
So the faction leader has its own type. It's a special weak type, and it's reserved to the faction leader, but every other player in the mercenaries are going to have one of these 3 types. For the faction member, the faction leader that chooses unilaterally the types, so he say, hey, you are going to be a player, you are going to be an attack type player, and you are going to be a defense.
Oh, so the leader chooses.
Yeah,
okay.
He chooses.
But the mercenaries choose their own.
Yes, they choose their own, unless they signed up in the middle of the season, and then it's randomly assigned. And by the way, I'm going to play as a mercenary too, and I'm going to choose my type randomly. And the mercenary types are going to be revealed before faction leader choose the types of their subordinates. So they could take into account the types of the mercenaries in general to adjust the roster, the balance of types in the faction.
Okay, I like it. Yeah, so the we're gonna get to it a minute, but having a certain type on your mercenary can make a big difference.
Oh
Especially
yeah,
because
absolutely.
because we're hiring the mercenaries after we've seen the lineup. So I could say, hey, I left slot 2 open for a merc, but my opponent put a defensive player in slot 2. Therefore, I'm probably
Yeah,
more inclined to hire a mercenary that is an eco type.
absolutely. Yes, the mercenary have a very are very likely to have a type advantage because they are hired after the first battle order is revealed.
Okay, I think I get this. Let's move on. So the mercenary types are permanent. The faction leader is permanent. Ooh, and we actually can change the faction player's type per between each 2 weeks, but for a hefty fee.
Yeah, it's like a very occasional things to do. Like before the start of the season, when every faction had their type revealed for everyone, then every leader can rechange one type for every for one of their subordinates. So like if the blue faction leader put 5 economic players, and you realize the green faction has a lot of offensive player, then he's going to
Oh,
switch
okay.
one of the economic player to the defensive player, but the green faction is going to do the same.
So the
So
week 1 change. So basically, what's
yeah,
happening is the faction leaders kind of get to see the split. There'll probably be like a spreadsheet or something that shows all the
yeah,
players and their types, and then I can say, well, hang on, I feel a little light on my attack types. I'm going to swap out one of them for free after I've seen what my opponents are bringing to the table.
yeah. But after that, it's going to cost a lot of meat, and the cost is going to increase with each change to a cap of 21 meat, and
So
that's a lot of meat.
you can only change between every 2 weeks. Can
Yeah, if you cannot change in the middle of the week.
Oh, between 2 weeks. I see what you mean by that
Yeah.
now. I thought you meant
Oh yeah.
you
Sorry,
had to
sorry.
wait. No, that makes sense. But you're saying, yeah,
It's
you
not like
can't.
every other. Yeah,
Right.
it's not. You can change every other week. It's you can only change at the end of the week or before
Yeah.
starting the
So
next week.
basically, at the beginning or the end of the round, you can't
Yeah.
mid-round change.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think that all makes sense. Kalaru does have an important question in the chat. Why is the cannon the symbol for the economic player here? My guess is that it's representing teching up, right? Like you're teching up to that big juicy cannon. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 And it's like if they retreat behind fortification, time to set up a big artillery barrage to gain the upper hand. But if they rush at you with a cavalry charge, then your artillery is going to be useless.
Yep. Yep. All right. Moving on. So.
So yeah, the type advantage too is that they're going to make your victory super effective in terms of victory points. That is that it's going to grant you more victory points, unless you're a mercenary, because it's not going to be twice the amount you should want to have a type advantage with mercenaries plus 1 victory point, because as we said earlier, it's easier to have a type advantage with a mercenary.
Yep.
And the leader, they have their own type, and it's a weak type that loses to everyone, including mercenary and including other faction leaders. So if a leader loses a battle, they lose twice the amount of victory points.
Okay, so summarizing this slide here, we're saying in this first condition, hey, if I beat you in the Pokemon Fire, Water, Grass, fair and square, not using a Merc to fill in the spot, advantageously, then I'm gonna get double the victory points. If I win in the Pokemon Rock Paper Scissors with a Merc, then I'm just gonna get +1 for that match, and then faction leaders, if they ever lose, and their opponent gets double the points.
Yeah.
So basically, like a faction leader, you're always the weak type. if you lose.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
That's.
And then I think we're just kind of breaking that down further here. So we're saying in condition 1, we've got a merc who is winning the rock, paper, scissors. And instead of +1, he's going to be +2, which would actually be the same as the double, but we won't worry about that
exactly.
in that one situation. In situation 2 here, we've got shield beating sword, and the shield is not a merc, so he's going to get double points. And then in the final situation, we've got sword, but that could really be any of the 3 versus a king, and he's also going to get double points there. Or faction leader, I should say. And then we have some more examples down here. If green is the one who's always winning, green is going to gain
the normal
1 point here. Yeah.
Value.
Because, and the reason is because he's actually weak in the rock, paper, scissors, but
if you are
wins.
weak or equal in the rock, paper, scissors, it's the normal value.
Yeah. And then the second one, we've got a merc against defensive. He's also weak here, but he's just going to get the normal value. And then finally,
if it was shield against shield, it would be the normal value too.
Yeah. And then we've also got the faction leader winning against basically any type, and the faction leader is never going to get a modifier if he wins.
Yeah.
He's just always going to get whatever he's slotted in.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got the free-for-all situation.
Yeah. That's just to detail what happens in situation, because you could be strong against one type but weak against another, because there is 3 players. So what happens is that if you win with a superiority advantage against one but not 2 of them, you are going to take double the amount of victory points only from the faction who had sent the player with the weak type against you.
Yep.
But not against the other. So you are going to steal 4 victory points instead of 2 to red in the first example, and it's going to be 6 in total. But green will take the normal losses.
Yep, that makes sense. So basically, we're saying in the first example here, blue is winning. So since blue has a type advantage against red, they're going to get double the points, and red is going to lose double the points, but green's unaffected. Same setup here. Green is winning and has got the type advantage against blue. So he's going to get double the points from blue. Blue is going to lose double the points. 3, we've got red's mercenaries winning. But the mercs only get +1 instead of double for type advantage. So shouldn't he be gaining? No, because he's going to gain 2, and then 3. Yep, that makes sense. So even though we got the type advantage in this clause down here, since we're a mercenary with that type advantage, we're only going to get +1 instead of doubling. So now green loses 3 instead of 4, and we're going to gain 5 instead of 6. And then in the final example, green is winning. Oh, that's awesome. And green beats both the other types, so he's going to get double points from both sides, and huge victory there for the green team.
Yeah, that's the maximum possible.
Awesome. All right, so we are approaching the end here. We're going to go over some miscellaneous stuff, take some questions from the chat. I've been trying to get to anything that I see that isn't trolly. So if you guys do have any questions about what we've covered, say them now, and we will get to them. Oh, well, but we're going to save them for after the misc, but yeah.
Just 2 more slides about the natural time.
Yeah. I'm just saying they can post them now, and then we'll get to them after these slides. All right.
So, about the color of the faction, it's going to be decided by the faction leader. In the slideshow, yellow is mercenary, but just an example. It could very well be that yellow is a faction, and that red is the color that was not picked by any of the 3 faction leaders, and then red becomes the default color for the mercenaries, if that makes sense.
Yep. So the faction leaders get to choose what color they want for their faction out of yellow, blue, red, and green, and then the color that's not selected is going to represent the mercenaries.
Yeah, and then we are going to color the pocket world map accordingly once the 3 colors are chosen. But as I said at the very beginning, it doesn't have a huge importance, like if you're at the south of the map or at the north, because even if there is no border connection, you still can attack your enemy faction.
Yeah, you don't have to be touching borders. Like here, green in the top left picture, green could take points from blue and flip their territory.
Yeah, so that's the pocket board map, the map that used by Pocket World, which is a Discord Tooth and Tail game created by Master First. There is 32 tiles in total. There is 2 tiles that are never going. That's a mountain tile in black on the picture. So there is only 30 territory in total. It's going to be 8 starting territory for each faction, and then 6 neutral tile. And among those 6 neutral tiles, there is going to be 3 that can be conquered through neutral conquest. 1 that is going to be conquered through a special show match between the 3 faction leader. So it's a show match that is going to happen right after the preseason, and whoever wins is going to have 9 starting territory for his faction instead of 8. The show match is going to be a 3-4 best of 3, like with a third game 1v1 if there is a time in the 3-4. And lastly, there is 2 little gray tiles that can be bought during the auction, just like you would buy a mercenary, just that instead of a slot you indicate the faction you are buying the tile for. Yes, and one thing that I forgot to say is that during an auction for a mercenary or for the tile, it's possible for multiple bidder to effectively merge their bids if they bid for the same slots and the same mark, or if they bid for the same territory. Like if I bid 15 meat to have this guy play for slot number 4, but my minister is going to bid 10 meat on him too, then the total amount of bid for this guy to my 4th slot is going to be 25.
Okay, what about if the minstrel bid on this guy as well, but for a different slot?
Then those are competing.
Those would be competing bids.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even if it's for the same faction, then it's
so
always.
I think I get this. So basically, what we have here is the overview of the Pocket World map at the very beginning of this season. The 3 faction leaders are going to get to choose between colors yellow, blue, red, and green. The archetypical tooth and tail colors representing the different factions. The one that doesn't get chosen is going to represent neutral, right? Or mercenaries. Or no.
Yeah, well, on the map, I think neutral is going to be gray or white. But in the free-for-all, the neutral conquest for they're going to take the last.
But the unused color is not. I'm sorry, it's going to represent mercenaries on not on the map, but like just in general on diagrams and such, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's where I got confused for a second. All right, so then the black territory of just a little bit of flavor. We're considering the mountains basically to get the right amount of territories, I suppose, that you wanted.
Yeah.
The gray are the scrape towns, and those are going to be purchasable on weeks 2 and 4 during auctions.
Yeah.
Now, are those going to have a bidding scenario, or is it just going to be I'm a team leader and I say 25 on it, another team leader says 20, and then I win it? Or are we going to go back and forth? And
it happens at the same time than the mercenary auction and through the same rules.
Okay.
It's like if you were hiring a mercenary, except you're not hiring that thing for a slot, but for the fact.
Whoops. Okay, and then all right. So we've got the gray are neutral territories that are going to be auctioned off, just like regular mercenaries on weeks 2 and 4. Orange, I like the orange. I didn't see that one. So that's going to be a little bit of a bonus territory that's going to go to one of the factions based on a 3-way free-for-all show match between the 3 leaders. That's going to be really cool. Is that best of anything, or is that a one match?
Best of 3.
Best of 3. Okay.
Just,
yeah, best of 1
like,
in Tooth and Tail is a little nuts. And then white is the neutral lands that we can through those optional neutral conquest matches we talked about earlier. And
Yeah.
okay, so I think that makes sense.
And the headquarters, they're just there for flavor. They don't do anything special. I think we're just going to say that they're going to be conquered last. Because if your faction loses its last territory, it's become permanently eliminated. But I think it's unlikely to happen.
Yes. And P-Boop did point out, I keep saying minstrel. I mean minister. I don't think you
minister.
probably didn't pick up on that. But yeah, minstrel is the wrong word there. That is a bard type person. We are talking about a minister here. All right, so we're back on the Pocket World map. So this is going to be maybe something that we're going to see between weeks or between rounds. Do we get like an updated version of this?
Oh, I think we should have it updated after every match streamed. Like we can update it live as you stream the game.
Oh, so you're gonna put Master Stealth to work here, man. Okay, so like
Yeah,
after
or
every
yourself.
okay, yeah,
We
or
could,
you can set it
teach
up
you
where
how
where we can update it.
to switch the title and stuff.
Okay, yeah, gonna put me to work rather.
Yeah.
All right, is that
And that's it.
That's it. Okay, I think we'll leave it
Yeah,
on.
that's it for the slide.
I think we'll leave it on this slide just for the background. We don't really have any other questions in the chat besides Master Stealth being a little trolly. I think Hilaro asked something, but I think I understand everything. I hope this video was informative rather. Geez, I'm running out of capability to talk here. It's informative for everybody watching it live or on the VOD. Our goal was to just kind of have this as a reference for people, deciding to join or just to kind of look at if they need some more information about any of these specific topics. I think the PowerPoint should be available with the Word document, in my opinion.
I could pin it on a channel in the Discord. Yeah.
It should be coded. Adam asks, Master Stealth is a little bit of a coding nerd and set up Pocket World and stuff like that. I think it's going to be like manual entry for me to say, hey, this team won here and gained some points, but then everything else should automate. I could have sworn Kalaro had something here. No, maybe not. Oh, this guy asked if he could choose to play as Eco. So if you're a mercenary, you can choose which faction or which type you want to be on, but if you are just part of a team, your faction leader assigns it.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's about it, unless you have anything else to add.
Oh, sorry, me. Just that there is still time to sign up, but if you want to be in a faction, you should contact me.
Yeah, so signing up, how does somebody sign up for just the 21 Generals in general? Do they just contact you and say, hey?
Yeah, contact me and eventually go to the 21 Dual tab. There is a link in the Google Doc, but I can send it to you if you contact me directly on Discord.
Yeah, so I've got all the links on the ToothAndTailTV channel. If you look under Tooth and Tail events, there's the leader nomination tournament number 1. That's going to be on Saturday, and that is going to determine who 2 of the other faction leaders are. We know that James is one of the faction leaders because he won last season, and then that tournament's going to be streamed live here. And then on Sunday, we're having another tournament, same thing, to find out who the third leader is going to be. And that'll be streamed by Tosh on Woody Pun 7. And additionally, there's a link to the Gentleman's 21 Generals Discord channel. You can find that right there on under the Tooth and Tail events section. It's the same Discord we've been using for all the Gentleman's tournaments. And if you don't want to sign up to try to be a faction leader, but you do just want to sign up for 21 Generals in general, message the Gentleman. And I guess all they would have to say, they would message you and either say, hey, I want to play on a faction, or I want to be a mercenary, right?
Yeah, if you want to be a mercenary, there is really not going to be any problem. If you want to be a faction member, if there is already 18 players who are signing for any faction, then it's not going to be.
I mean, I think we want to get at least like 25 or 26 people involved, right? Have 18 on the teams, and then have like 5 or 6 mercenaries float around. Really, the more mercenaries, the better. So.
Yeah, but if we have like 10 plus mercenaries, there is going to be several mercenaries that are not going to play on a weekly basis. That's for sure. But yeah, I think the ideal number of players is around 25 or like that, mercenary included. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that's. I think we can wrap it up here, man. Unless you got any final remarks.
But just thank you to everyone helping me organize that. Thank you for to Premium to help me with the organizing and the rule feedback. Thank you to those who gave feedback on the rules. Ask them too. So that would be Blue Croon, Big Tosh, Illuminatus, Haru, Raben, and of course thank you to Master Theft with recoding the old Pocket World map. He needs 21 generals, really awesome. And of course thank you to you and Big Pimbitosh who are going to cast the season.
Yeah, man, I'm excited.
And, yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I think that's it, guys. Again, we have the tournaments coming up this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Sign up for those. It's going to be a lot of fun. They're going to be streamed live. I'm doing the feast again on Friday nights, so send me replays to ToothAndTailTV at gmail.com. And, hey, what's up, Ghost in the chat? Yeah, dude, there's going to be Tooth and Tail content literally the next 3 days, because tomorrow night we're doing the feast, and then we have a tournament on Saturday, and then we have a tournament on Sunday, so all kinds of meat to consume here. But that's it, guys. I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna get this on YouTube ASAP, and we'll just have it in the Gentleman's Discord as a informational, hopefully little instruction video, watching Delthius fumble through learning the rules. If I can learn it, so can you. That's it, everybody. Take care. I'll see y'all tomorrow night. Have a good one. And Pocketbot Cup Monday. You're right. So that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So that is so much Tooth and Tail. See you, everybody. Take care.